And at the time, they also even set her broken forearm, put her broken forearm in a cast. Well, obviously, you don't fix the arm of a dead person. But even more importantly, within the first paragraph of those medical records, there are two sentences that make a reference to a wound in mother's body that has nothing at all to do with her being allegedly run over by a car. The words that are printed therein refer to a punctate stellate wound to the forehead. And, you know, at the time, I did not know what that meant. But every doctor confirmed with me that this was most probably a reference to a gunshot wound to mother's temple, and it was done by extremely close range, and that all of the descriptive words in these medical records were describing that particular wound, that she had been shot in the head, close range. And of course, it's really odd to me, number one, that my family never pursued the acquisition of those records. Number two, that no one at the hospital even reported it. Police didn't report it to our family. You know, of course, I wonder what would have been done at the time. But this lie that mother was killed at the hands of Jerry Don Moore by running over her with his dilapidated vehicle is just a lie. Mother, in my opinion and in my research, and many people like Jim DiEugenio and Gary Shaw have confirmed that I'm actually on the right track with this, that she was killed, shot in the head, placed on the side of the road. Her suitcases placed in the middle of the road at a diagonal formation so that an oncoming car would have no choice but to run over her body, or come close to running over her body, and therefore cover up the real way that mother's life was taken. But you know, it's pretty astounding for me to have in my hand one document that says she was dead on arrival. The other document says she received medical care for 8.5 hours and could have possibly lived. I mean, it's just absolutely astonishing to me, even now, after looking at all of this for over 30 years.
It's astonishing to me to hear it as well. Of course, it's something, you know, very near and dear to your heart. So it's, you know, I can just imagine the pain in your quest and the level of, you know, wanting to come to know as much as you can about what happened. Sure. When you hear about that and what happened in the hospital, just generally questioning the things that come to my mind, do you believe what she came in with was something that was going to be fatal? And it just took that much time. Evidently, it seems she was lucid and she was speaking at the time. Or do you think that somebody may have possibly, you know, killed her in the hospital?
Well, I believe that she was shot prior to being at the hospital. Of course, we know it's a very convoluted situation at the very least. All of East Texas, and even the Gladewater Hospital, was infiltrated by the mob. I mean, so the fact that mother even made it to the hospital, thank God for Jerry Don Moore.
Now, he was the gentleman driving the car, which is said to have hit your mom with the suitcases in the road. He stopped, Good Samaritan, you know, worried about her, put her in the car, got her over to the hospital. That's correct?
That's correct. And of course, this was all in the middle of the night, you know, in the early morning hours, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you know. So the fact that I'm sure they thought that there was a chance that she might live. But unfortunately she didn't. But you know, there's so many odd things about this entire situation. When my uncle, who lived in North Dallas, was sent to identify mother's body, it was reported directly to me from my family that someone had already been to the hospital and identified the body. It was a man who said he was a distant cousin and he had bright red hair. Someone had already been there to make sure that she was dead. before my family could even get there. I mean, the entire situation is beyond convoluted.
Now, did you ever have any inkling of who that person might have been?
Unfortunately, that is the one, I say one. I have uncovered so many answers, but that is one that has eluded me. I have no idea, even to this day, who that individual was. I think that there are one or two researchers who may have an inkling. And there's also an interesting fact about the exact location of her murder scene, about who owned the land, and where Mother was. I mean, Mother was street smart. She had lived this long because she knew the lay of the land, so to speak. But yet, this night, she was completely off the beaten path and hitchhiking, evidently on her own, which made no sense. She would have never been where she was. You know, she was taken there. She was eliminated. And oddly, Bob, you and I know we have both talked about things that we have read in, I guess I might as well just say it, in manuals by enforcement agencies in our government that depict this kind of scene. Do you remember talking with me about this?
Well, I tried to look up and ask others also as well, and you were looking as well, into manuals of how they would do death by automobile, basically, and it wasn't far from the realm of something they seem to have had done before. Yes.
Yes, you know, I don't know why it didn't hit me immediately about
because you're a normal person and you act by moral rules, and it's not your normal way of thinking. Yet when an intelligent man such as yourself is thrust into this and your eyes start to open, your intelligence and insight start to take over, and you start to unravel what we're all trying to understand.
Right. And, you know, that scene, the more I looked at it, it looked everything like a staged scene, not an accidental scene. You know,
especially for the listener, the way the suitcases were set up. I mean, it was pushing whoever was driving past would panic when they see the suitcases, swerve, and be led into wherever your mom, you know, horribly was laying.
Yes. You know, and it might be interesting to your listeners to know that the only reason Mother was even identified was because Jerry Dunmore, after he had scooped her up and got her to the hospital, he actually went back to that scene and scooped up those suitcases, which had some clothes in it. And believe it or not, it had some of my baby clothes in it that Mother carried around with her as some kind of way of staying connected to me. I mean, just the thought of that breaks my heart. But there was also a lone letter that Mother had in her suitcase with my grandparents' address in Duncanville, Texas. Otherwise, enforcement may have never, or at least in a delayed fashion, located her true identity. I mean, I just find that astounding.
No, this is an almost impossible question to answer, but so Bob, why ask me? Well, because I think you might have insight into it, even though it's a hard question. But had your mom lived and she'd been a reliable informant, she'd been used by the FBI and others, had Jim Garrison or somebody gotten to her, or the House Select Committee, and interviewed her, do you have a line that you think maybe it would have gone down, or what she might have been able to reveal to them? Or is it, as I said, is this question unfair because we don't have enough of a basis even to speculate with facts behind it?
Well, I think from all my research, I don't believe there's any way they would have allowed her to live. Mother knew too much. She was in too many situations. She knew too many names. I mean, most of the world thinks that Jack Ruby randomly goes into the basement of the Dallas Police Department and murders the person who supposedly assassinated the president. I mean, she could have revealed so much. You know, I think near the end of Mother's life, I know that at one point when she was, gosh, I'm having a brain fart at the moment, but she was out of the East Coast running a prostitution ring and drug distribution. activities. She actually called the FBI because she thought her life was in danger. I think she knew that the end was close, that she had walked down both sides of the road for too long, and that something could indeed happen. Honestly, it's a miracle that something did not happen to me. I mean, the people she ran with, I believe she did anything and everything to protect me as long as she could. And even people have asked me, aren't you worried about talking about this? And my response to that is no, I'm not worried about it. My God is in charge of everything.
Well, I do believe he's looking out for you. You're a real man of faith. Yes. Please continue.
Yeah, I just believe that God is going to take care of me. And if something happens to me, then I've just gotten a little bit too close to the truth fire.
Well, nothing's going to happen to you because we need you here and we're all praying for you. But you've been a wonderful son, a wonderful investigator. You're on top of this. You brought a lot of the facts to light. And I think your story, as depicted in your books, really would make a great show for Netflix with the things that they cover. There's so much more information. But as we run out of time for our hour, could you tell us again where everyone could find the books? And thank you so much for being here today.
Bob, it's always my pleasure to talk with you about this subject that's really dear to my heart. The revised second edition, as I said, is of course available through Amazon. But if anyone would like autographed copies or dedicated page copies, they should contact me through Rose Cherami, RoseCherami.com, or PeniLUnlimited.com as well, my publishing company. Second time around, I published it myself, just to go a little bit different route. But they can contact me. Bob, if anyone knows how to contact you, you can get me in touch with them. I'd be glad. I believe that there's many people who would be touched by this book. In fact, people have contacted me. They've gone their whole lives angry at their parents about mistakes they supposedly made, and they just can't seem to understand how I can get by all of this. Well, my response to that is, we only get one mother. Yes, my mother made mistakes, but guess what? Children make mistakes as well. And I feel robbed by her early death in my life, and I'd give anything to see her, and I only look forward to seeing her in heaven at some point in the future.
Well, my continued prayer is that more is exposed in the here and now, and that you'll get an increased peace with that, as in addition to the peace that you found. And I know that you two will once again be rejoined in heaven, and I'd like to be watching as you guys hug. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm looking through you here on Shake and Wake Radio. It was made special today by the appearance of my friend, I am proud to call him, Dr. Michael Marcades. And thanks for listening to Shake and Wake Radio, and we hope to be back with you next week.